Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. In this video we are going to be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful off shoulder dress with a strap. It is a 2 layers gathered dress. This is what you're interested in. Keep on watching and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So to make this dress, you will need your fabric, any fabric of your choice. Right here I have my Ankara fabric, about 2 years of it, and also I have my chalk here because I'll be drafting directly on the fabric. So let's go ahead and fold the fabric. My fabric is in a fold of 2. Like I said, I'm cutting directly on the fabric. Okay, what I did was to first of all roll out a starting line that will guide me. So this is an off shoulder dress. It doesn't have a shoulder, so you're going to determine how off you want your shoulder to be. Okay, so you go ahead to determine how off you want your shoulder to be. For me, I am removing 6 inches from my shoulder, placing it on the starting line. I'm going to mark down my chest line. I'll roll it across. So still placing the 6 inches on the starting line, I'm also going to mark down to my bust point, my under bust line, and my waistline. I will go ahead to roll them across after I am done, and I will also go ahead to label each and every line. This is my waistline, this is my under bust line, this is my bust point, and this is my chest line. So what I will do next is to measure half of my nipple to nipple measurement, but because you're cutting directly on the fabric, you will add ½ inch to half of your nipple to nipple measurement. I will mark it on all the line. Mine is 3½ inches, but I went ahead to mark 4 because we are cutting directly on the fabric. Hope you understand. And I went ahead to connect the points into a straight line. Coming over to my under bust, I am taking 7.5 inches on both sides of the dart leg. I'll also mark it on my waistline. I'll go ahead to connect the points together. If you're on the bigger side, you can make use of 1 inch on both sides of the dart legs. We don't really need this posture to be too curvy. So on my bust point line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and I will go ahead to use my curve rule to connect, like you can see me doing like this. Coming over to the upper part, I'm going to take ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg. This is to tighten the upper bust area. And then I'm going ahead to connect it to the bust point line in a slanted manner like this. After that is done, on this upper part, I'm going to mark 12 inches. But because my fabric is on fold, I will mark half of the 12 inches, which is 6 inches. Remember, it's an off shoulder dress. You don't want the upper bust area to be too wide. So I mark 6 inches, and then I'll replace this 1 inch that I took out here, and I will go ahead to add my stitching allowance. Coming to the chest line, I am going to divide my bust measurement by 4. I will mark it. I'll replace this tiny dart I took out around the chest area, and then I will add my sewing allowance of 1½ inches. I will go ahead to use my curve rule to connect it from the upper part like this to the chest line. On my waistline, I'm going to divide my waist measurement by 4. I'll replace this dart I took out on the waistline, and my stitching allowance of 1½ inches. And also around the under bust line, I'm going to mark my under bust measurement divided by 4, replace the dart I took out on the under bust, and also my stitching allowance. I will go ahead to connect all my measurements together, as you can see me doing like this. So what I'm going ahead to do right now is to mark ½ inch on the upper part for joining the lining and the main fabric together. So make sure to add all the necessary allowance. You don't want to short fabric after sewing this. I extended the dart leg upward, and the down part I am going to also add ½ inch for stitching the down part and the upper part together. I will go ahead to cut out. So guys, at this point, if you haven't liked this video, kindly hit on the like button and also subscribe to this channel. Thank you. This is what I have after I was done cutting out. I'm going to place it on my lining piece and cut out. For the back, I first of all rule out my zipper allowance of 2 inches, as you can see, and also a line that will guide me, which is a starting line. So for the back, I'm not going to add any armhole, unlike the front where I remove 6 inches and I still have a tiny armhole. So my off shoulder is going to start from my chest line, and this line up here is going to serve as my chest line. Hope you understand. On the front, I minus 6 inches from my shoulder, but for the back, my off shoulder is going to start from the chest line, and this line right here will serve as my chest line. So what I will do is to minus my chest measurement, placing it on that line. I will go ahead to mark down to my waistline and then ½ inch for stitching allowance. I will go ahead to connect the line across. So after I am done, the next measurement I am going to take is my under bust measurement. Still placing the 8 inches on my chest line, I will mark my under bust measurement. So it is totally optional, but me, I like marking my under bust measurement at the back, so that when I want to join the front and the back, everything will be equal. Okay, but if you don't want to mark it, you can go ahead and leave it. So after I was done, on this upper part as well, I am going to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement plus ½ inch. Note that I am taking all my measurements after the zipper allowance. I'll take it all the way down and I'll go ahead to connect into a straight line. On the waistline, I am going to take ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg. I'm going ahead to connect it to the chest line in a slanted manner like this. I will go ahead to take my body measurements. On this chest line, I will divide my bust measurement by 4 after this zipper allowance. I will go ahead to divide my bust measurement by 4. Add my stitching allowance of 1½ inches. On the under bust, I will mark my under bust measurement divided by 4, replace the dart I took out around that part, and add my stitching allowance. And on my waistline as well, I'll repeat the same thing. I'll replace this 1 inch dart and my stitching allowance of 1½ inches. I will go ahead to connect all the points together. On the zipper allowance area, I am going to minus ½ inch from the waistline. This is to avoid zipper bulge, and I will go ahead to connect it upward like so. And then I'll add ½ inch on the upper part for stitching the lining piece and the main fabric. So I'm going ahead to cut out. I'm going to hold this dart and notch the midpoint, and I will place the pieces together and cut out my lining piece. So after I was done cutting out my lining piece, please do wait to use a matching lining piece. So I also went ahead to interface the main fabric. This is the bustier area. I will go ahead to start joining by placing the sides to the center front, right side facing right side. I am going ahead to pin it down, and once I am done pinning it down, I will go ahead to stitch from the top to the bottom by ½ inch, as you can see me illustrating like this. I will repeat the same thing on the side, and also I will stitch by ½ inch as well, and I'll also join my lining piece exactly the same. So for the back, remember I notched the dart leg. I will go ahead to fold that dart leg like so. I will mark out ½ inch for my dart. I will connect it upward like this, and I'll go ahead to stitch it all the way down. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Fold the dart leg, that point where you notch the dart leg, fold it into 2, mark ½ inch, and go ahead to connect it upward. So I'll go ahead to stitch it all the way down, and I will repeat the same thing for a lining piece as well. This is what the front part look like after joining. You can see how beautiful it looks. And here is the lining piece. So I will fold this bustier area into 2. Remember I marked out 6 inches when I was drafting it earlier. So I'll go ahead to mark out that 6 inches. And the rest allowance you are seeing right there will be for stitching the armhole. So this is where I will be placing my strap. I'm going ahead to replicate it on the right side of the fabric, as you can see. So by the time you open it up, you will have 12 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to place my strap right there. I'll go ahead to place the other one on that mark I made earlier. So I'll use my lining piece to cover everything up like this, arrange properly. I will stitch the upper part, the armhole and the sides, and I will be back. For the back, I'll first of all mark out my zipper allowance of 2 inches, and then I will mark 6 inches after the zipper allowance to one side. Then I'll go ahead to mark 6 inches on the other side as well. I will also place the strap on the 6 inches mark I made. And I will use my lining piece to cover up. I will stitch the upper part and the sides together. I will go ahead to do that, and I will bring it back. After I was done joining, this is what it looks like for the front. You can see how beautiful and neat it is. I went ahead to iron it out, and this is it for the back. So the next thing I will do is to join the front and the back together on the sides. Make sure you use your body measurement to do this. And after I was done, this is what I have. This is how beautiful I have. I iron it out properly, as you can see. And this is it from the wrong side. So you can see how aligned the sides are. That is why I like marking out my underbust measurement on the back, so that everything will look equal. So for the down part, I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric. All I did was to minus my half length from the gown length. And total gown length I am making is 38 inches. So I minus my half length, which is 17 inches, and I was left with 21 inches. So I further divided that 21 inches into 2 because we are making a 2 layers gathered dress. Hope you understand. So I'll go ahead to measure everything out so that you can see. So what I have here is 11.5 inches. Instead of 10.5 inches, I added extra 1 inch to each of them for stitching allowance. So this one will be the one that we place directly on the waistline, and what I have for the wideness is my waist measurement times 2. Okay, I times my measurement by 2 plus extra 5 inches. That is. And for this down part, I measure what I have on the upper part and I times it by 1.5. Hope you understand. What I have on the upper part, I times it by 1.5. That is what I use for this down part. You can see that it's longer than the upper part. So remember, this down part is going to overlap this upper part. It's going to overlap it by ½ inch. So I'm going to run a gather stitch on top of it. But before you run a gather stitch, make sure you weave that edge that will overlap the upper part. Okay, make sure you weave the edge that will overlap. That is this point I am showing you right here. Make sure you weave it before you go ahead and run your gather stitch and place it on it. For me, I couldn't see where to weave mine, so what I did was to fold it and sew. So after folding it, I will run a gather stitch on top of it and also run on the one that will be attached to the waistline. So after I was done running the gather stitch, you can see what I have. This is the one that will be attached to the waistline, and this is the one that will overlap this. So I've gone ahead to gather this one already. I'm going to first of all place it on it and sew. So I'm going to overlap it by ½ inch like this. I will use my pin to secure it so that you can see what I am saying. So this is what it will look like. I will go ahead to stitch it to the end, and once I'm done, I will also go ahead to gather the upper part up to my waist measurement, and I will bring it back. So after I was done joining the down part to the upper part, I also went ahead to gather this waistline up to my waist measurement. So I'm going to go ahead to place it on the half length like this. So I'll go ahead to place it on my half length by placing it right side facing right side, as you can see me doing like this, and I will go ahead to run a stitch on it. After I was done running a stitch, this is what I have. You can see how beautiful and lovely this is. So this is what I have. So remember, this back part is still open. So I will go ahead to put the back pieces together like this, right side facing right side. From the waistline, I am going to come down by about 7 inches. That is where my zipper is going to end. I'm going to come down by 7 inches from the waistline, and I will stitch the remaining down part with a normal stitch, and for the upper part I will attach a zipper to it. I'll also hem the down part. So I will do all that later because at the moment I don't have a matching zipper. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit on the subscribe button.